Happy Thursday to you. Come on in to the Rooted in Progress Dream Center, because, man,
we're here.
We got a lot to talk about today.
We do. We do. Happy Thursday, everybody.
My goodness. Yes. Happy Thursday, or happy whatever day it is you're listening. You choose to listen to this podcast.
I think it's Thursday everywhere.
Well, today, but what if they listen tomorrow, Terrence?
Well, yeah, I guess you could say
or
that.
Saturday or Sunday.
That's the joy of us, that we're live. We're right here, right now, in your car, in your AirPods.
All the places.
All the places.
It's your girl, Deanne King. Yes. We got Terrence Middlebrooks here for Rooted in Progress. Hey, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Download the WFLA app so you can watch us live every day.
Every day.
Every week.
Over and over again. You have that option.
Hey, let's jump right on into it. This is something that, my goodness.
Yeah.
Every day I've come into work this week. This has led our newscast, social media. This has been streaming. The indictment for Diddy, for Sean Combs, for Puff Daddy, for Puffy, for Love, whatever you want to call him.
Take that.
Whatever he chooses to call himself in this moment. All of the charges, everything that has been coming really since the moment singer and performer Cassie came out, right, Terrence?
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a situation now for well over 2 years.
Yeah. Well, we could go back a little further than that, though. But when Cassie came out, no one really took her serious. And then, of course, there were some videos that was released, and everyone was in shock. And then here recently, with the recent allegations on Diddy, man, I mean, we're all in awe, of these allegations and the findings that, from the raid and everything. It's
a lot to process, because you think about it. I remember talking to my sister about this, Terrence, and she's like, I grew up with this man,
we
all
did. We all danced around, and my glasses are crooked, man. I'm getting old. I gotta
fix yourself.
Yeah, get myself together. There we go. All right.
But it's one of those things where when you have someone who you've admired, who you've listened to, you have a memory from a song, or you have a memory from an album that got you through something, and now this is what you associate with that person. It's hard, right?
Right.
So we want to catch everybody up with what's going on with Diddy. I want you all to listen in and hear some of the charges that he's facing. We're going to hear from that, and we're also going to hear from his attorney.
Yep, here we go.
Sean Combs led and participated in criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse. Freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
The fight continues. We're not giving up by a long shot. He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent, and we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight any longer.
All right, so we just heard from Diddy's attorney, and we also heard some hard allegations and the charges that Diddy is facing. And she was so nice, we had to bring her in twice. At this point, she's going to be our legal correspondent. We have State Representative Michele Rayner joining us for this conversation. Of course, give her all the praise.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
And we have her in studio.
Yes. And this is a Rooted in Progress history moment, because we brought her back twice. 2 weeks in a row.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I am glad to be in the flesh. So no technical issues.
No Zoom issues.
No Zoom issues. Zoom was zooming, honey.
Unless your car broke down on the way here. That's the only thing. Other than that, we're blessed to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
I know this is a super serious topic, but I'm glad to be with you two and us talk about it and break it down for the people.
Yeah, when you saw the allegations and these charges come in, sex trafficking, racketeering, what were your thoughts?
listen, as I think Terrence mentioned, we kind of felt like this was coming, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, with the Cassie complaint, my day job is a criminal defense attorney, so we know that the feds aren't just going to raid your house just to raid your house.
Right.
They're raiding your house for very specific reasons. They have made sure they've gotten the warrants together. And so I want to kind of just walk people through, because I think a lot of people have awareness of like state court, but they don't have awareness of like how a federal case kind of starts. It's not just in state courts, it's mostly just, law enforcement saying, hey, we think someone's committed a crime. State attorney, we're arrested them. And then, they charge you and then they build your case. No. In federal court, you have a federal agent and a prosecutor working together at the very beginning of any inception of a case. And they are working together to build a case. They are working to write the warrants. They're working to write the search warrants, or whether it is a wiretap, whatever it is, they are working together. So there's a thing that a lot of defense attorneys say: when the feds have you, like they have you, they have made their case. They're literally going in court saying, here's all, we've presented this to a grand jury. Here's all the evidence we've collected. We're ready to try this case today.
Wow.
So I think when we saw the actual, not only charges, or not only raid, but then we kind of knew this was coming. So I wasn't, surprised that he was going to be indicted, because I think the handwriting was on the wall, which is why I think that he tried to settle with Cassie. Immediately the day after she filed. So I would be interested to see what that settlement agreement indicated, and if he was trying to buy her silence in a potential criminal defense matter, which is also illegal. You can't do that because it's called tampering with a witness. But, we can have that conversation. But pursuant, if all things being true in this indictment, I wouldn't put that past him as well.
Wow.
So, I wasn't surprised. And I think that, the Southern District of New York is one of the most aggressive federal districts that we have. And Jamie Williams, the U.S. attorney, is very, very smart. I think what's also interesting on the back of this indictment, he was the one that signed it. I've read many federal indictments. Usually it's the assistant U.S. attorney, and then it puts down like Damian Williams or whomever, like, here's Roger. No, he is the one that signed this indictment himself.
And that tells you like the seriousness.
That tells you the seriousness.
So Diddy's in a lot of doo-doo.
Right? He's in some trouble, baby.
Yeah.
He's in some trouble. Like, this is not, I heard another lawyer say, he's not going to be able to buy his way out of this.
Yeah.
He can't buy his way out of this and this situation.
And do you think that's the reason why, with both attempts of bail, that the judge denied it?
Absolutely. And I think here's the other reason. Not only, first off, you got to think about flight risk, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this man has access, even if he were to, freeze all of his assets, he has access to other people that could get him out this country, right?
Yeah.
I believe that there was at one point a while back, and I'm sure those online will fact check me if I'm wrong, but a while back, there was a conversation that he was looking at different countries that didn't have extradition. Let's think about Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons right now has these type of allegations hanging over him, and he is not in the United States and will not come back, and he's in a country that they will not extradite him if their charges were filed. So I'm not surprised that the judge in this matter said absolutely not. I think based on what is contained in the complaint, and just his history of coercion, his history of bribery of witnesses, his history of tampering with witnesses, his history of violence, it's not unreasonable that the judge said absolutely not. No, you're going to have to go ahead and sit down for a minute, sir.
Man, and in jail at that. When you went through this sealed indictment that became unsealed this week, what are some of the things that stand out the most to you as an attorney? As an attorney,
we're on page 1, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And page 1, it says 4 decades.
It starts. That's how it starts.
That's how it starts. 4 decades. Mm-hmm. And then in that same paragraph at number 1, it says, referring to Sean Combs, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and an obstruction of justice.
My goodness.
So this indictment comes out, and obviously many indictments are written, but this indictment comes out very strongly. Like, we're going to make this case.
Yeah.
And then there's other things that stuck out. On page 3, it talks about the Combs enterprise. And as they're talking about the Combs enterprise, you go to page 4, it says the purpose of the Combs enterprise. First off, it says that we're going to be operating a global business. But what stuck out to me is that it was all about preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs. And then the indictment begins to walk through with specificity about what would happen if the preservation, the protection, the promotion, and the enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs was threatened. So once again, this is not a poorly written indictment.
Yeah.
This is not
very calculated, very
meticulous, very specific. And Mr. Combs is going to have to answer for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people at this point are curious to know what's going to play out in court because, like you mentioned just in the first part of this indictment, Enterprise whose members and associates, a lot of people are wondering who else is going to be named. And that, my.
Baby.
That's a conversation.
Baby, listen, if I was close, what... Hello, Damian Williams. What do you need to hear from me? Because maybe what I'm not doing is going down for this man.
Yeah.
And I would think, though, Dean, I think what you have to understand that also, while this is the indictment just for Mr. Combs and there's no named co-defendants, I have to imagine that folks have already been talked to.
Yeah.
And there have already been deals in place that if you testify, you'll be given immunity. I can't imagine that there would be nothing in place already that would be happening right now.
Well, the amount of paperwork and the records and video and all that was found during the siege, I'm sure there's going to be some name dropping.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, but there's more than likely, I hate using this word, it's going to be a lot of snitching.
No, I mean,
a lot of snitching.
There is. And I think that, here's the way if I had to predict, and we may be talking about this, I think this is going to go to trial. He's not going to play out. He's too, if all things being true in this indictment, and this is how he operates, he's too arrogant, he's too narcissist, has too much of an ego.
Yeah.
And his attorney just said he's going to go down fighting. And it was interesting, his attorney said, I don't know if you guys caught it, he goes, he believes that he's innocent. And then he paused, he goes, and I believe it. I was like, you don't believe that man is innocent? But obviously his attorney was doing his job, but it was interesting. I caught it because, that's what they do. Words mean things. And I'm like, and the way you say words mean things. And I'm
it does.
So I'm like, oh, okay.
So then the attorney standpoint, what do you think as his attorney, what does he do?
What do you defend?
What does an attorney do in this position?
I mean, you keep it a G. You keep it a buck with for those who do not know a G or a buck, it means you keep it real.
100.
You keep it 100.
With
100 with your client. I've had clients in federal cases, and it's very hard, especially if they've ever dealt in state court. It's very hard to really share with them what they're up against, right? Yeah. They don't understand that for the most part, the federal government has you. It is just, we're just now negotiating how much time.
Yeah.
And the rules of criminal procedure are very different in federal court than it is in state court. What you're allowed to do is different in federal court than what you're allowed to do in state court. Whether it's access to witnesses, taking depositions, those kinds of things, those rules are different.
Yeah.
And also federal court moves fast, right? It moves a lot faster than state court. So that's also where we're at as well. And even access to discovery and evidence, those rules are different than in federal court than they are in state court. So once again, it is, if I was his attorney, if I was, in a place of defending him, we would have to keep it 100. It is well within Mr. Combs' right to go to trial.
Right.
Yeah.
I have not seen any evidence. I don't know what none of this says.
Yeah.
But when I'm reading this, you have to have those conversations rather quickly. How do you want to defend this?
Yeah.
And then if you want to defend this at trial, what witnesses do you have to substantiate and corroborate your position, Mr. Combs?
That's real.
So when you say federal court moves faster, so are we looking at a long, drawn out case?
I mean, no,
is
probably.
It going to last over a year, or is this like 6 months?
If it lasted over a year, I would be surprised. And the only reason it would last over a year if they start to engage in a lot of high level discovery, which means evidence gathering. They're going back and forth with the government, and it also just depends on. The burden is on the United States government. They have the burden, right? So it just depends on how much. Evidence that they have and other witnesses they may be talking to and other reasons that they may have for continuance. I mean, obviously, if you're an attorney, you want more time. You may say, listen, judge, we're trying to find more witnesses, or, Mr. Combs is not well, or, this is going on or that's going on. But it really just depends on, I had a case that the person was arraigned in May and we were set for trial in January, right? So, I mean, that's 7 months.
Right.
So and that's federal court. I had another case where the person was arrested and arraigned in January and we went to trial in September.
That's quick.
So, so it is rather quick, and these people did not have the access to the money and the resources that Mr. Combs
that he has. Man, it's hard because, and then when you look at this culturally, I'm seeing some folks saying like, okay, how is this impacting the culture? I mean, Diddy did a lot for the culture in music and film and entertainment and fashion.
And Howard University in itself, HBCUs.
Yeah.
I mean, HBCUs. I mean, he went to Howard. I mean, there's one of his closest friends, Park on 14th in DC that everybody goes to.
Yeah.
He helped establish that, right? And I was actually texting with a friend of mine today, a black man. He's a lawyer, and he said, for him, and I'm actually gonna read a little bit of what he was sharing with us. He was sharing with me and another friend of mine. He says that. Puff was the epitome of black male cool for those of us in a certain generation. Yeah. His downfall is going to affect black men in ways that a lot of y'all, meaning my friend who's a black woman, won't understand. He was a pillar of essentially black male excellence.
Yeah.
And, and he said at this point, Jay-Z is the last one standing. And so I even though it's not my show, Terrence, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, you're a black man. Seriously, how do you feel about that, Terrence?
No, I grew up with when Diddy came on the scene. That was in my college days, and so I mean, dancing across the stage at the time, you had the East Coast West Coast beef. You had your hardcore Compton, Tupac, Snoop, Dre, all that. Then you had your East Coast, which is Biggie, Wu-Tang, all those guys, and Diddy came on the scene. And man, I mean, this dancing across the stage and just, just backing Biggie and all that, it mean a lot. It says a lot. I listen to his music. There's almost probably not one song that I didn't know or don't know or even have on some of my playlists. So this affects me a lot. And to think that this guy's been a mogul. He's became a mogul and been in the community and been around for so many generations to where now it's just going down the tank. And so it hurts me to the core, man. I mean, to see this and just another stamp on us black males, when we make it to the top, we got to get yanked down or kicked off or thrown off. But, we already struggle with ourselves. But now to do something as silly as this, Diddy, come on, bro. You knew this. How long you think you're going to ride this out and not get caught? So
yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
I think from the black male perspective, it is very interesting. And even just to hear your input, Terrence, because it hits differently when you look in the mirror and you can see him in yourself or you were once able to do that. and maybe you don't do that anymore because you have questions and you're like, well, what's going to happen? How is this going to play out in court? And you look at the culture as a whole, you're right. Just like your friend said, Michele, like when you sit down and if you were to ask me Black men who changed the game for Black culture, he probably would have been maybe the second or third person that I would have named.
I mean, as an entrepreneur, I used to watch, like when I first saw, I celebrated 12 years of practicing law yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
And so when I started my firm, you know,
There we go.
but when I started my firm, you know, I would look at some of Diddy's videos like, we don't sleep, you don't do this, you don't do that. Like even, you know, just like the hustle mentality, like the hustle mentality of, you know, you eat, sleep, this excellence, you know, he would say it's Black excellence and all of this. And so even on that front of just even as a entrepreneur, as a someone who is, you know, a self-proclaimed hustler, you know, I would look at his videos just for inspiration and say, you know, I mean, remember when he made the people walk across the bridge to go get some cheesecake? But
TV show,
I mean, even though that was crazy as hell, but the idea of, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, if you want something, how bad are you going to get it? And then so now knowing all of that, and was he wrong in what he was saying? Probably not, but understanding that all of this was happening in the background. Because the complaint says for decades. Not for a year or two, for decades. They go as far back, I believe, in the complaint as 2006.
My goodness. And I think that brings up the conversation about sexual assault victims and survivors of sex trafficking, which is just, my God, something that I couldn't even imagine having to go through. And on my Instagram earlier today, I had someone ask, like, why now?
Wow.
Why now? Wow. And my response is, why not?
Why not now?
When survivors and victims, there's no timetable on when they're ready to come forward. And then, like you said, Michele, you look through this indictment and whether they were coerced or whether they were bribed and maybe they felt like they couldn't. And you have someone, power is crazy.
Yeah.
Power and money
and power, absolutely.
Money and power is something that until you're
unfettered power.
I think it's money then power, because once you've achieved all the money that you can and have, you seek power, and I think that's why we see a lot of politicians in the corrupt stage. I'm not diving into that. That's a whole nother podcast. But
and I was like, well, I got things to say on that too.
Man,
but But I will say, even in that realm, and just to be personal, I have been where I'm situated as an attorney, but also as an elected, where I've had powerful men say and do things that were highly inappropriate.
Yeah.
That if I named names,
it would be over.
This would be breaking news.
Yeah.
But I also understood my lack of power thereof. I mean, like if we're gonna just really talk about it, right? For real. And you know, and women, I get it. Like, you're powerful, sis, I get it. But like in some real lack of power, if I were to open my mouth and say, this is what's happened, or if I were to show text messages of what I would received, then they wouldn't be the ones getting in trouble. It would be me.
Yeah.
I would have no career anymore. I would be called every kind of whatever you want to call me. Yeah. I would be the one that would be threatened. And so and then I have to walk past some of these same people and say, hello, how are you? Knowing what you have said or what you have done. And it's not just limited to me. So many women go through that, whether it is with someone who is an intimate partner, whether it's someone in the workplace, whether it's someone just you're out. You know, how many of us have been out and, you know, someone touched you unwanted? You're like, you can tell me I'm pretty without having to touch me.
Correct.
Right.
Like, and so I can only imagine, for example, who I think they're referring to victim one, who is Cassie, being 19 years old, dealing with a man that's 37 years old.
That right there.
And what, like, come on, like, and so at some point, she was able to step in her power and her courage and file that civil complaint. I'm sure that the Southern District of New York that wasn't the first time they had heard of any of this. So they were like, yep, it's go time.
Yeah.
And they were able to do that. So sexual assaults, violence, all of that has no timetable.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out the state of New York that allowed her to be able to file that complaint when they passed a law, the New York Adult Survivors Law, that will allow people as adults to be able to file complaints with regard to sexual assault and extend the time period for them to be able to do that, which also I think kicked a lot of this off. I mean, and so I just think that, to me, when we ask why not, we're giving the violator, the accused, Mr. Combs and whomever else, a pass. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Being like, well, it doesn't matter. It happened a long time ago, so you don't need to be held accountable.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right. And you have to look at who he is or who he was and where they were trying to go.
Correct.
And so in your example, and one, I want to acknowledge and thank you for even sharing that in this space, because that's hard. A lot of women deal with that, especially in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And when you're placed in positions with people of power who are abusing that power, but you want to get somewhere. A lot of these women are entertainers who have filed complaints and who have come out with abuse. They had goals, and it doesn't diminish who they are as people for waiting, right? And for going through whatever they had to go through. But that's another abuse of power. 100%. You knew these women wanted to be a singer. You knew these women wanted to be in the entertainment industry. You knew those things. So you knew you could do whatever you wanted to do with them because of where they wanted to go. Mm-hmm. That's an abuse of power.
Right. And he knew just with one phone call.
Yeah.
It's over.
And
for
again,
them.
it's Diddy. It's Sean P. Diddy Combs.
Yeah.
That's it. Everyone's in awe and they idolize him. And so therefore, for this record deal, you telling me you wouldn't do this?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I could change your life. And we look back, and I'm gonna bring him up, but we look back at the R. Kelly situation. Oh. It's very similar.
Very similar.
It's power. It's just manipulation. It's really diving into someone who's in, who has a want. Yeah. But real quick, let me just plug this phone number in. And no matter what we're talking, I know we're talking about this as P. Diddy, as in the workplace and all that. But if you're in a relationship, a marriage, anywhere, there's National Domestic Violence Hotline. Call this number, 1-800-799-7223. That's 1-800-799-7233. Please, you don't have to be stuck. And like Michele said, there's no timetable. There's no timeline on domestic violence.
And there are so many local resources. I sit on the board for the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, and they do some incredible work and helping survivors of domestic violence or sexual assault. And so you can also just dial 211. Mm-hmm. 211 is simpler, it's easier, and you can dial that number where folks can actually can help you. And I think it's fitting, especially having Michele here as an attorney. At what point, if someone who maybe has gone through similar situations as these people in this indictment, or someone at home who has gone through sexual assault, domestic violence, sex trafficking, unfortunately that's rather large and a big problem here in our area with the port. At what point do they seek an attorney?
Yeah, and this is the hard part about that, because I think the two resources that you and Terrence highlighted, it takes a lot for people to even get there, right? Mm-hmm. It takes a lot for people to even admit that there is an issue. Yeah. It takes a lot for people to be able to step outside of well-founded and well-rooted fear to get there. I think at any point that they feel that their life is in danger. I know I have a colleague that does work with victims and survivors of human trafficking from the inception of them wanting to get out of this situation. Sometimes, a lot of times, you have people who are victims of human trafficking who have been charged criminally with prostitution. And so then you have to work with the state to say, actually, this isn't really prostitution. This is what this is.
That's a thing.
That's a whole thing. And
wow.
I will say this publicly, shame on some of the state attorney offices that refuse to really deal with that issue.
My goodness.
Because I understand you want to deal with the human trafficking, but you also have to deal with the victims who may be engaging in quote unquote illegal activity, quote unquote sex work, which is coerced. So it's not anything that they want to do. And yet you're still saying, well, we still want you to serve 90 days in jail, or we still want you to whatever,
wow.
We still want you to be on probation, all of those kinds of things. So it's a lot of that is also education as well to the community and to working with different entities of saying like, this is real. You know, having been in the legislature for the past 4 years, you know, we are consistently trying to deal with issues on human trafficking.
Yeah.
Even when we're thinking about social media, I mean, I just passed a bill that got signed into law about social media protections for children. And one of the large parts of that bill is because children are being targeted on social media for sex trafficking, for human trafficking.
Wow.
And, you know, I got a lot of pushback and I'm like, great, that's cool. But when your 16-year-old, you know, is out here, or your 14-year-old or your 12-year-old, that's how they encounter these adults.
Yeah.
So, you know, to your instant question, I think that if you have the access and the resources to find an attorney that can assist you in doing that work, most certainly. I know my organization, I have a organization, shout out to Justice Over Everything, my co-director, Dr. Byron College. That's some of the work that we do to help people, place people with the resources that they need if they are survivors of human trafficking.
Tell us about it, a little more about Justice Over Everything.
So Justice Over Everything is an organization that my friend and I, Dr. Byron College, established. And really, it's at the intersection of advocacy and politics. It's at the intersection of advocacy, politics, and diversity and inclusion. So Dr. Green, he deals a lot with the DEI portion and training. I deal a lot with the advocacy in the legislation. And then we kind of all come together and we see how, in a very C3 nonprofit way, we see how those things can affect the political world. And so when we're thinking about advocacy, not only do we work with other nonprofits, but we work with, organizations such as St. Pete Pride, such as the Public Defender's Office, those kinds of things, to bring all of the resources together. And really, it is we call it a social justice hub.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how can people reach out and get involved in that?
So you can go to www.justiceovereverything.com. On Instagram, we are justice_everything_ justice_over_everything.
Them underscores be getting you.
The underscores be killing me, friend. They be killing me. But also,
that's amazing.
Also, if you can just go to my Michele for Florida, it's in my profile. You can click on it.
Okay.
And we've been doing work just right now, just kind of from the ground up. And it was a concept that I had for years. I trademarked Justice Over Everything, and then my best friend was like, what are we doing? And I said, I was waiting for you, friend. Twin, where have you been? And we just decided that this is the work that we want to do, but this is part of the work that we do, understanding that while yes, I'm a defense attorney, but I'm also a woman. I'm also a Black woman.
Yeah.
I'm also a woman that has survived not only domestic abuse, but also a woman that had dealt with craziness in the workplace. And how do we advocate for people and make sure they have the things that they need?
That's great.
Yeah. That's another great resource here, a local. She's right here, and she's an incredible person too.
You're so wonderful. I'm gonna pay you that $500 after this.
By the way, she's amazing and she's wonderful as well.
Yeah, Terrence, I'll give you 20.
Okay. Hey, that's 20 I didn't have. I appreciate that. Okay.
No, but seriously, I think with these with issues like human trafficking, sex trafficking, and domestic abuse, sex abuse, it is serious, y'all. So whether you may know someone or maybe you even think something is going on, please try to advocate as much as possible, because we look at these situations. I think the the Diddy and when our team actually got together and talked about what were we going to discuss this week, the Diddy issue is at a 30,000 foot level. But then when you bring it down to every day, when you're sitting at home and you're talking to your friends and your family about it, you have to, in essence, you have to personalize it. Like Terrence as a black man, how this affects him. Us as black women, like, my goodness, what if I went through this? Or what if my sister or my colleague went through this? Like, we have to realize that these issues aren't as far as it seems.
Right. And we know more people. Correct. And we know more people that have probably experienced something similar, maybe not to this level, but something similar that has affected them. And then also, I think it's an opportunity for us to also see like who we're around and how they speak about these things, right? Because if you are giving him a pass,
we got to talk about something.
Because
well, and that's the thing too, is that
I'm sorry if those who are just listening via Spotify and they see my face is like,
right,
please.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is that because we got to pay attention to even the folks that we're around.
Yes.
Your coworkers, your friends, and because there's so many signs of human trafficking, domestic violence, all that sometimes we just ignore. Man, you good? You all right, man? And I used to have a homeboy. I knew a guy. I ain't gonna say he's my homeboy, who got abused by his girl, and it was just to the point where those are the things men we don't talk about.
Oh, wow, that's powerful.
My girl beat my ass. Like, excuse my language. Can I say ass on?
Yeah, you can.
Podcast? All right, my girl beat my ass.
Yeah, we're not on TV.
You're not gonna come out and say that. They're not gonna come out and say that. So you got to make sure. Because again, bottom line is all about mental health, man. And before anything gets any worse, you got to speak up and take it upon yourself to tell, to reach out, to call. So those are the things that. Can you elaborate on that, Michelle?
I think that's a powerful point. Yeah, that just like really resonated with me. I think that there are signs of. I think you just have to lead with more empathy, right?
Yeah,
we have to lead with more care and concern and it's hard because like we all have our own lives. We're very like insular, right? But to your point of like paying attention, I'll never forget this experience. I was a newer lawyer. I was married at the time, and no one would probably like now like looking at me. But I had come to court and it was really rough. It was before physical stuff had started happening. It was a lot of verbal, a lot of emotional, a lot of psychological, financial abuse, right? I came to court and it was hard for me just to get out of bed. Came to court and for whatever reason, I probably didn't lotion appropriately. So like the ash, for those who aren't black, you get the ash on
a little crusty.
A little crusty, honey, a little white. And I heard another black woman attorney like talking, can I say SHIT? Talking shit about me, about my appearance, and she should effing know better and da-da-da. Look at how she came in here. And what she didn't know, it was all that I could muster to get up and get to court that morning.
Wow.
And instead of saying, sis, are you okay?
Right.
Hey, let me pull you aside. You need some lotion? And maybe that would have been the opening for me to feel comfortable to say, girl, thank you so much. I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. Girl, if you knew what was going on, instead of saying, sis, hey, let's go to the bathroom. Let me fix you up real quick.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
You just don't know. And I will never forget that. I still see this attorney to this day.
Wow.
She doesn't know that I know or that I heard her.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'll never forget that. But it also put inside of me that even when I see maybe my sister's slip showing a little bit, I don't know why that's necessary. Maybe it's just like an everyday,
It just happens.
It's just like, I just need to zip you up. You need to zip up. Or maybe it's, baby, if I could tell you why I couldn't get out of bed this morning.
Yeah.
And so I think that, to me, we know the signs, but I think we have to step outside of ourselves and just be a little bit more empathetic and a little bit more forward facing and just making sure like, you good?
Yeah.
You good? And if you're not good, it's okay. It's going to stay with me, but I'm going to help you get good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes total
100%.
sense. And I think the extra step and the other layer to that is for folks who aren't okay.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to not be okay. Literally in your example, like that could have very well opened the door to say, my goodness, you don't know what this meant to me because just this morning I was going through this, I heard this, and I'm barely here right now.
Right.
And that may have been more than what she thought. She thought she was probably just offering some lotion.
Right,
you know?
right.
But you may have needed that in that moment. And then that's how we're able to hear and recognize those signs. So when we're being empathetic, let's also push the envelope to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and share if you're comfortable, right? If you're at that point, and if you really do need help, share what you need.
Correct.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it's and I know at times people say, oh, it's not easy. It's not easy. If I do call or if I leave him or her, where am I going to go? You know, Deanne, like you just mentioned, the foundation that you're a partner, you're
the crisis center.
Yes, the crisis center. You know, there's places, they have beds, they have food, they have clothing. There's places to go. You just got to make sure that you bold enough. You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired and step out and make that necessary call.
That is real. 100%. Speaking of the call, 211, a good resource, 1-800-799-7233. That is a domestic abuse hotline number for anyone who might need help, who's listening right now. Before we get out of here, Michele, I got to ask you, what happens next with this Diddy case?
I mean, I think that we're going to see, just go through the process, right? We're going to see probably what we call like status hearings to kind of see where they're at. I'm sure, again, they're going to conduct just more evidentiary hearings. Maybe his attorney's going to maybe try to suppress some evidence saying that it wasn't obtained appropriately. But once again, as I tell people, this is not state court.
Yeah.
When the feds got you, they got you. They usually do everything, especially like the U.S. attorney signed off on it. It wasn't like, you know, one of his assistants. I think that, you know, ultimately I would be very surprised if he pled. The only reason I think that he would probably plea is because he's in custody and he wants to get out.
Yeah.
But then I think that any plea that he takes is going to be, there's not going to be a probationary sentence. It's going to be a prison sentence.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be as interesting as Young Thug and Trial?
No.
We're going to get our popcorn.
No.
That
trial is
has
literally
drained me.
That trial. Listen, it is so hard because people are like, don't you watch it? I said, first off, I live this. For those who don't know, I'm actually representing the Julio Fulio rapper case.
Okay.
I'm representing one of the defendants in that. And so I have no interest in watching any of it. Because also I kind of look at it like there are actual real lives involved. So I'm just like, okay. But no, that trial is like when he was like on the stands, like I can't get in trouble for anything I'm about to say, and then admitted to like shooting up someone's like correct. I was like, what? I was like, where are we at? Like, are we on Earth 2 or 3?
It's unreal.
It is literally unreal.
Yeah. And
the
tiresome.
lawyer getting locked up. It was just like, I mean,
all the changes with the judges.
It was like, what is happening here? But I mean, you know, when Fonnie Willis comes in with the RICO, I mean.
That was it.
Listen, I don't ever want to be in her crosshairs, baby. You got it, sis.
Yeah, it's tough. So we'll continue to watch it play out.
Yeah.
We might bring you back when some more things happen.
Yeah, Michele, thank you for being available.
And come out.
You know?
Yes, we have some comments. Folks love you.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, y'all. Thanks.
Folks absolutely love you. We do too. Thank you for coming in, especially and rendering your expertise with this case. It's a lot to unpack, y'all.
It is.
But of course, we'll continue to monitor it. And again, if you are on the other side of this story, experiencing any human trafficking, sex trafficking, sexual abuse, domestic violence, whatever you want to call it, please find it somehow. Fight for yourself and make a call and get some help. Because we would love that for you for sure.
Right. Yeah. If it's Diddy, if it's your boss named Sean, whoever it is, it's your husband named Sean, whatever it is, girlfriend, wife, whatever. If you're going through this, you know, please take a stand now because you never know about tomorrow. So. Yeah, man, what a great show, Deanne.
Yeah, you got to stay rooted in progress. We're moving. We're moving the needle here.
Yeah,
and we're going to get better as a community, y'all. So we love y'all. Yeah. We love you, Michele. Thanks for joining us. Michele. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are here every Thursday live on the WFLA Facebook page, the WFLA app, WFLA.com at 11 a.m. We appreciate y'all joining. Y'all stay rooted.
Hey, stay rooted, folks. Have a good one. We're still here. Can't let y'all go. Stand by.